Hello, everybody. Thanks for landing on this page. If you're here, then somehow you got here because you're interested in the Lumen project and what it is. I'm Chris Angel, co-host here with Jeff Bernheisel, the founder of the Lumen project. Jeff, I guess we're going to walk people through like, what is it? What is the Lumen project? Since they're interested, what do we really need another men's group? Like, what are we doing here?
And what is this thing?
What is this thing? Yeah.
That's been a question that I've been wrapping my head around for a couple of years now since I had the idea for this. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We've talked about it on the podcast, kind of the origin story, but the gist of it was I was in a really dark place. Like I had lost a business and I had done a bunch of stuff around that, and found out through storytelling and through doing some mindset work on my own, mindset and body and a bunch of different things, that sharing my story started attracting people, like-minded men specifically, that had gone through something similar and that were kind of all, I don't want to say bonding, but kind of like just building a community, a little collective. And I didn't mean to do that. It was unintentional, but in doing so, I had a few guys that had expressed that they had gone through something similar and felt like they could trust talking to me. And one of them at one point basically said he was thinking about committing suicide. He saw what I had gone through and how I had lifted myself out of it, and he didn't thank me for saving his life. That was a really powerful thing. And that was the day that I was like, man, there's something to this. I need to start a community around the idea that for the longest time we've been programmed not to talk about vulnerabilities and different things like that, and there's a need for that. And so to answer your question, like, what do we really need another men's group? I think most, and I'm not going to rip on any of the other ones, they all serve a purpose to the right group. Our group is going to be less of the like banging on the chest alpha male badass type stuff, and a little more of the healthy, I like to say healthy masculinity.
Nice.
What that means, what that looks like in today's world, and just building a safe space for guys to talk about stuff like what we've gone through. And I don't want to make it sound like we are going to be a group of like broken men. That's not the intent. The intent is if you've gone through something in life and you've got to that point where you're like, I want to get to a better place, whatever that may be. Maybe it's with your business or your relationships or your health, whatever. I want to get to a better place, and I want a like-minded group of men around me to help me do that. That's what we're building here.
I think you said it in the first episode of the podcast. For those of you watching this, you can go back and watch that, listen to that. But that, for every human, I think, let alone men, but especially men, I think, have this feeling like, I was made for something more than this. Like, what is my life's work? What is my contribution? What am I doing here? And a lot of times I think as men, we get pulled into hustle culture. We get pulled into the work, the make money, pay bills kind of thing. And
grind,
often at the grind, at the expense of the thing that really feels like our legacy, what our life is for. And how I really have, as you and I have been talking through this community, what I really hear is a place where each of us gets to wrestle with what that is for ourselves as we watch others wrestle with it in the group too, and live it out. Like when I start living, I'm already in the middle of mine, and that took me a major breakdown to get to where I am here. But we each start engaging in that question, and I think we start to compare notes, and we're like, wow, okay, that encourages me to look over here, to do this thing. And you don't get that when you do it alone.
Right.
Or when you don't have a safe space. If the other men community, I've been in some of those men communities. I've paid to be a warrior. Wink, wink. Like I've been in some of those places where I'm not going to chime in and share the thing. You're trying the best you can just to look as big as possible, because that's the alpha culture that's happening in those spaces. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to flex.
Right.
I just want to have an honest conversation. And I think that's what is available here.
Yeah. And I used the term earlier quite a few times, bringing everything into alignment. So we focus on these pillars. And when you bring all of those pillars into alignment, and your purpose starts to become clear, That's
Yeah.
where the magic happens.
Yeah, that's good.
And you can do that without saying a word. The beauty of it is I'm not one, like you said, to be in these communities and chime in, but by listening to others and listening to what people have gone through and what they've been through.
Yeah.
But there will come a time where you actually want to share, and you want to share what's going on when you're comfortable enough to share
Yeah, that's good.
and break down that wall. And you just said it, it's not impossible, but it's a very hard thing to do on your own.
Yeah.
And I wrestled with it for years, and I eventually did it on my own. And then I became a member of a community, and it got so much easier. And I was like, why didn't I do this in the first place? Like, that was stupid. I just spent a year trying to be, tough guy, if you want to call it that, because that's how I was raised. I was raised in a military family, and if you thought you broke your leg, if your bone wasn't sticking out and blood wasn't gushing everywhere, you just walk it off and call it a day. So growing up in that kind of environment, I never shared my emotions. I never shared what was going on in my brain and all of those things. But when you get to the point where you realize, like, that's kind of stupid, and it's way easier when you have a group of awesome people around you to anchor you and then to help you get everything into alignment, like that's magic starts happening for everybody.
That's right. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think if we talked a little bit about structure, like what makes this group work, I think for me, I think part of it is conversation. Without conversation, if all you're doing is snapping pictures and checking in on email or online, it's not the same as being able to wrestle through what's called level one thinking. Like there's a thinking that requires effort to wrestle with cultural norms, or like the patterns of your life. Like there's another level of thinking to get outside of that. And I think part of the magic of this group is having those kind of conversations. But there are other things I think you have thoughts about for
so
what people can expect.
First step, I'd say, I think it's going to be up top. There's going to be the email subscribe thing. So first thing I'm going to do when somebody signs up to become part of the Lumen project, initially it's going to be a series of emails that you'll get that kind of walk you through this idea of creating your life's vision, what you want your life to look like. And I actually go through this exercise probably once a quarter or so, because it's the gist of it is we want to create a vision. We want to create some goals. We want to create the steps that get us there. And we want to do that in a quick and efficient way that isn't a huge pain. So that's the first thing I do. If somebody joins the email list, we're going to get those, and then we're going to share some of our stories and some of that kind of stuff throughout the rest of that. But as far as joining the community and becoming a member of the Illuminati, the idea behind that is you're going to be held a little bit more accountable. So we're going to go through that same exercise, but we're going to do it kind of in a group setting, and maybe even some one-on-one stuff if needed. But getting to the point where we all have a clear vision of where we want to go and what we want to do and how we want to do it. And then every month we're going to have, our calls, and we're going to have special guests and hot seats and some educational type things, and maybe some fun. Eventually I want to do some get-togethers, some actual physical get-togethers and some retreats and that type of stuff. We'll get to that point eventually, but in the meantime, it's just, having kind of a set schedule. We want to make it easy on everybody and not super time demanding, but we'll get results. And that was the one thing with the group that I ran the beta test on. As I said, you guys, if you go through this, and it's different for everybody, so I'm not saying again that I have the answers for you and for you and you, but we have a method, I guess is the best way to say. So like if you go through this process, I pretty much guarantee you're going to get results.
But it's not a process like you need to do 20 burpees or 75 hard. It's not like it's not a prescribed actions that we tell you have to take. They're just frameworks for areas of life where, as you begin to set some structure up. I mean, I love the 12-week year, that whole idea that you could live 4 years in 1 year in quarters. I love the idea. Jeff, I'm telling you right now, I don't have this in my life as a man. I'm excited for this community because the idea to do a 12-week year with other men this way, inside a framework I create for myself through the process that you're guiding us through, like, I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's a good way to look at it, is a kind of the best life framework. I used to call it the best life blueprint.
There you go. Yeah.
But blueprint's a little more like set in stone. Like, I need to go build this now. But the framework is a little more flexible. And I like that.
Yeah.
That sense, because you really do build it for yourself. I can guide you through the framework and the process, but as you're going through it, you're building it yourself, and it's all self-guided and self done. Then the big part about the community is going to be the accountability, helping each other, sharing stories as we do this, and the check-ins and that kind of stuff. Like, that's where it gets really fun too, is, you meet some really cool people, you start networking. And this is all from experience when I did this group before. So, you meet people from all across the country, and those relationships that you form, and that's one of the pillars, by the way, is the relationships, personal and business wise. Yeah. Those relationships that you form are like lifelong friends. And so, I've got friends all over the country now that we have that in common. We went through this kind of a boot camp type thing, and this was a different group that I'm talking about. We went through this boot camp type thing, but very similar. It's where I got the idea of this quarterly goal setting and all the stuff, the framework. But it's pretty powerful when you put your mind to it. And it gets back to the point, like we were talking earlier, about kind of the manifestation. And I mean, it's really heavily revolving around that. So it's like, here's your vision. Let's define what the vision is. Then we're going to define some of the goals that it's going to take to get to that point in a year or two or whatever. Right. And then what do we need to do on a daily basis now to get those goals accomplished? Yeah. And then let's do that for the next, 30, 60, 90 days, and check in with each other once a week and make sure everything's good. And I mean, I always laugh because I'm like, none of this is new. None of this is like rocket science. Yeah. But it's so hard when you do it by yourself. Yeah. And I've gone through phases where I've gone, 6 months where I'm not doing it. And, and I feel like I'm missing something. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I bet you if I just go back and get back to the basics. Yeah. Yeah.
I hear that.
Works every time.
I feel like, for those, this little thought popped in my head, like, for those that hear that and go, yeah, no, I've done that before. I've done the whole pick a vision and then work it back. And what's my daily thing? And I've done that. I can't remember how many times I've done that. 20 years in business and personal growth industry stuff. Like, just how many times have we all done that? I think what's interesting and curious to me about this is one, just the chemistry or the fit. Like, when you do it in the right group of people, same process in the wrong group of people doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. Right. I feel like I'm trying to be something for somebody. Like, it doesn't fit. You listening to this would already have a sense based on how Jeff and I speak or carry ourselves, whether you like our energy or not. You might think we're safe people, or people that you would be friends with, or you might think we're idiots. And so you would already know, whether the chemistry of this group of men would be a fit for you. And to have that group of people where then you have a process like this makes all the difference in the world to me. Mm-hmm. Now it's fun. Now it's a band of brothers. Now it's like, okay, let's, this is cool. Let's do this. Yep. For sure. Cool. Well, so I guess next steps would be, if this is interesting to you, you want to not just learn more, but you want to take the next step, I would say click the application button on this page, fill that out. We'll follow up with next steps. And obviously if you're not on the email list, do that, but lean in. Like, if this is like the direction you want to explore your best life, you want to explore what your purpose is, you want to start to ground that into daily routines or practices that bring alignment into your life. That's what we're doing. Again. What's that?
I said, there's that word again, alignment.
That's right. Well, that's what we're doing. So, final words, Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, like Chris just said, get on the email list. It'll kind of give you a little bit better idea of what I'm talking about. And then if you're like, if you see that and you're ready to go today, or you want to hang out for a month or so and get the emails, either way, but you lean in and definitely think about joining the community. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So good. Awesome. All right, gang. Well, click the button below to apply, and we'll see you on the other side.